regular session. We opened at 8:30, took some public comment, then went into closed session, and now we are back in regular session. So only those items that are scheduled for a specific time will be heard at that time. All other items can be taken out of sequence for staff and public availability. I would like to start the meeting with a moment of reflection, and please keep in your thoughts and prayers all those people that are guarding our community by fighting the fires. Now I'd ask you all to please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, led by the County CAO, Jay Serena. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. County Council, do we have any actions coming out of closed session?
Nope.
Good. I didn't miss anything. Any new employees? Introduction of new employees, please. Welcome.
Good morning. I'm Heidi Kunstl, Director of the County Community Development Department, and I am extremely happy to say that we have successfully refilled our planner position that was vacated in the end of January when Randy Hooper was appointed the Assistant Director of Community Development. So I'd like to introduce you to Alexis Kelso, who has been with our office just about a week and a half now. So,
welcome.
Hi, thank you. So I am Alexis. I grew up in Calaveras County, and I was most recently in Portland getting my master's in urban and regional planning. But I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to working with you all in the community.
Well, fantastic. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Any other new employees? Okay, at this time the chair requests any additions, deletions, or corrections to items that are on the agenda. In order to place an item on the agenda that would require an action, it had to have arisen subsequent to posting of the agenda and require action prior to our next meeting. Any? No. Okay. Then at this time I would like to get a brief report from the CAO.
Over the last couple of weeks, we have been involved in a number of meetings with individual departments. We had the special meeting regarding the grand jury report and response, have been involved in some review regarding the final budget and preparation, attended the meeting with a number of people, including the Department of Fish and Wildlife regarding elk and the elk issues. And I also had a meeting with Senator McGuire that same day when he was in town, and then I was able to spend a little bit of time at the fair. I did want to throw a little shout out to the Alexander family who put on the bucket calf program for the umpteenth year in a row, and the amount of work that it's put in there, and it's very impressive to see the little kids get out there. And I was fortunate enough to see my daughter show for the third year, and she was the winner in Class 6, so that was fun.
Fantastic. Congratulations. We're going to take up the consent agenda. Can I get a motion on the consent agenda, please?
Chair, I'd like to delete for discussion. I'd like to pull for discussion item number 11.
And item number 11 has to do with agreement with Crestwood Behavioral. Is it something you can satisfy your curiosity with a question at this time and leave it on the consent?
Well, I'm in support of this, but I'm understanding that Barbara Pearson is here and wishes to address and update our public on what is going on with alternatives to sending our those in need out of county. So I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Good. So can I get a motion on the consent agenda,
Motion
please?
to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded.
Sorry, I can't. Sorry.
Can't?
Second.
Okay. It's moved and seconded for the consent agenda, for all items on the consent agenda. Public comment on any of these items? Okay, then back to the board. Supervisor Gitlin.
For some time, I've expressed my concern to Barbara Pearson about those in greatest need being delivered services and being transported out of Delaware County on long ambulance rides to, in this case, Sacramento, strapped on a gurney. It's not a pretty picture. It's not something that I would like to see continue. And I've asked Barbara to please look for alternatives to that so that we can treat as best we can those in need with that. So Barbara, I think you have an update for me, and I wanted you to share it with our public.
Well, I'd like you to share it with the board first, please.
So I'm Barbara Pearson, the Health and Human Services Director, and this is Jack, our Clinical Supervisor for Mental Health.
Welcome.
So we have had ongoing discussions with Sutter. We agree it's not the ideal scenario to send people on long journeys when they're in acute state of psychiatric need. Sutter did have a group come in and evaluate the potential to put in an inpatient psychiatric unit, and they said unless we could fill 10 beds, for them it wasn't financially feasible. So we're getting the numbers together on what we spend both for drug and alcohol and mental health, acute hospitalization and detox, and then we're going to go back to Sutter and see if we can't reinvest that money into buying a couple of beds there, and what would it take for us to staff it or for them to staff it, and what some of the JACO and licensing regulations are around that. And Jack's been talking to them about a 23-hour crisis stabilization bed. Let me give them an update on Nevada.
Sure. I was at a meeting for community behavioral health directors, and there is some grant money out there. Can't remember the name of the specific bill, but there's some grant money out there for crisis stabilization beds, and what that is our ability to keep people for 23 hours and 59 minutes, part of the laws of the 5150 process, and thereby stabilizing them without having to send them to an acute psychiatric facility. And the important component of this is that, as some of you might be aware, we've hired a psychiatrist here locally, and I've been in conversations with him because that becomes the important piece of, well, rather than hospitalizing them, what are you going to do for them? And a lot of that has to do with our ability to have them see a psychiatrist quickly. So that was an important piece to have in place before we pursued anything further with Sutter in my mind, but our psychiatrist is very, very willing to help us out with that. The Crestwood amendment that's on the agenda is not for a psychiatric hospital. Those are for our conserved folks that stay out of county for some time. And again, Barbara and I and the Public Guardian's Office have been working on bringing some of those folks back home. Again, the important piece of that is having some flexibility with our psychiatry and being able to have these individuals seen quickly, weekly, so that when we do pull them home, we have some chance of success that they don't end up back in psych hospitals. So those are our two plans related to those specific individuals.
Good, and if I might clarify something, this is not to send people to Sacramento. Sacramento's where the company is located. If you read further in the agenda packet, it's actually to send people to Eureka. Am I wrong?
Crestwood has multiple facilities throughout northern
The one we would
California.
send to primarily is Eureka.
If they had a bed.
Right.
Sometimes Red.
Something like Semper Byron's was.
Generally what happens is for those individuals is they'll start out in Eureka,
Right.
and then Eureka, that's just the type of facility, that's a locked facility, and then they'll move on to different facilities within the Crestwood system. That's like step downs. You know, obviously we're trying to keep them from being in a locked facility to being in a place where they have some freedom, and it's just a gradual step down process for these individuals with the ultimate aim of them returning to the community where their family and natural supports are.
Correct. Good job. Keep it up. Any other questions on any item that's within the consent agenda? Okay, then board members, further questions? Poll vote, please.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes, I need to recuse myself on item number 16.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Finnegan?
Yes. Budget transfers, number 17 and 18. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Can I get a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. The two budget transfers, 0801 and 0802. Any public comment? Please approach.
Linda Sutter County. So, you have a 17-year-old vehicle with 96,000 miles on it. I'm talking about number 17. And my car is 4 years old and it has 96,000 miles on it and it's ready to go for another 96. So I'm wondering why you would want to purchase a vehicle for $30,000. I understand it is grant money, but can't you use that on something else? And I know the vehicle's old, but it's I haven't seen it. I don't know what it looks like. But if it's clean and dent-free or whatever, I don't understand why you'd want to spend $30,000 when you have a vehicle that works. And for a couple thousand, you can keep it working for a long time. Thank you.
Verification, please.
The purpose of the new vehicle is that you can take it off of the paved surface. We have been advised multiple times by our mechanic, who has spent a significant amount of time repairing our van, that we are not to take it even onto a graveled surface. It's in pretty desperate condition, so thank you.
Bahawing and four-wheeling is out of the, okay. Thank you for that explanation. Any other comment, public comment on the budget transfers? Back to the board. Any questions from board members? Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Finnegan?
Yes. So let's go to item number 21, to approve and authorize the temporary closure of Klamath Boulevard, beginning at the south entrance to Klamath Circle, and for the Salmon Festival. Who would care to present on this?
I guess I will.
Okay.
This is an annual request made by the tribe in order to close Klamath Boulevard for the Salmon Festival.
Thank
So
you.
if you have any questions,
It's been done annually, and they do a great job down there. Probably a little more congestion this year, but all the
and
more
I-
reason to close the road.
that's correct. And I know that they are delaying, they're actually going to be doing the road improvement on Klamath Boulevard, but they are holding off on that until after the festival is over. So a lot of stuff going on.
Good.
Move to approve, Chair. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Public comment? Back to the board. Further questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Thank you. Number 22 is to approve and authorize the submission of two project proposals to the RAC, Title II funds.
Okay, we are putting together two applications that we would like to submit to the Resource Advisory Committee for grant funding to do two culvert replacements located at Patrick Creek Road and Big Flat Road. I'd also like to tell you that we have had some preliminary reviews of our application by others, and we were given some advice that we should take out the amount that we had requested for equipment. So we're proposing to take that amount out, and we believe that our application will be far more competitive. Our applications will be more competitive. So that information was provided to me today by our road superintendent, Jeff Daniels. So rather than requesting $116,827, it will be combined $94,138.
$94,000.
$94,138 and actually 90 cents.
And that's combination of both projects, so you equally
Exactly.
take out the, okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes, there's a separate line item in the budgets for each of those
Right.
for equipment, and we would just slide them over from the requested column to the county is supplying those services column.
So that would actually go towards our match? Is that
Yes.
how that works?
Yeah.
Great. Can I get a motion on this, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Public comment on these two projects that are being slated for the RAC Committee Title II funds? No? Back to the board. Any other questions? Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Chair Finnegan?
Yes. Item number 23 is to approve and authorize the Mental Health Services Act, 3-year program and expenditure plan. The annual update actually is what it is. We already approved it. Barbara, how we doing?
So this was our annual update that we have to do every year, and it came kind of close because we were delayed with the 3-year plan, so that's why you're getting it so quickly. And we did our community planning meeting, and I think that we picked a better time at lunch, I think, for folks to show up, and we had some good feedback. I think that things are largely the same in that annual update. We're trying to utilize some of that money for the workforce education technology money to do different programs to increase education of our current workforce staff. We utilize that fund to bring some very professional folks to do a postpartum depression training for a variety of people, not just mental health staff, but other community staff. And so we're hoping to utilize that some more with law enforcement, some crisis intervention training. We are looking at our housing dollars, and we're planning to utilize those funds. That's kind of a larger process, but we are actively getting involved in utilizing that money as well. And then our prevention and early intervention dollars, I've been trying to work with different community folks as far as the programs that they're running. I think traditionally we've run 3 programs out of that. And I would like to see more community members come to our local mental health board to discuss their programs and what really are the needs of our counties. Because that's really, that particular set of money, that prevention money, is a little more flexible in how we use it than some of the others. So I've met with an individual from the Child Care Council about their program a couple of occasions now, and just trying to get a better feel for how we can use that money. So.
Good.
So on the PEI, prevention and early intervention, that's woven into the children's budget discussions that we're having at this point, and how do we use that money, invest it wisely
Good.
for our children?
I had an opportunity to attend at least one of your public workshops. I would have liked, it's nothing on staff or the department, it would have been nice, and I don't know how you do it with the outreach, to get more of the public that isn't involved directly. Usually it's only if they are directly involved that they'll show up, or at the staff level. But I was encouraged by some of the discussions regarding early childhood dollars. I was very encouraged by some of the housing discussions that are taking place. And I know especially now that the sheriff has formed his task force with former sheriffs to look at some of the issues we have with homelessness and vagrancy, et cetera, that I think there's a good way to interwove or weave in your program as well and have those discussions. I think it's great. So
I think we will get better every year. Now our mental health advisory board is going to meet every month, so they'll have a lot more input as well.
good.
Yeah, and I think that that's the key ingredient, is that, you know, we can have our ideas about how this money should be spent or what programs we need, but really the local mental health board is what comes back to this board and advises you of their recommendations of what should happen. And so I'm really encouraging when community members come to me saying, tell me about your money. I say, well, come to the local mental health board and discuss your program with them and, you know, get their feedback on that as well.
Good. Can I get a motion to approve the 15-16 year portion of the 3-year Mental Health Services Act?
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Public comment on this. Great time to weigh in on anything that you've heard or may be concerned about with the Mental Health Services Act budget or programs? No? Okay, back to the board. Final questions? Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Finnegan?
Yes. Number 24 is to authorize the Community Development Department to pursue County Service Area Sphere of Influence. Amendment to include the assessors parcels 115-020-20, Ocean View Motel, and the Martin Ranch property 115-020-28.
This is kind of a returner and kind of new all at the same time.
I'm sorry, Heidi, excuse me. Public comment is a timed item at 10:25. If you were here for public comment, you've got 5 more minutes. Okay, great.
Okay. The Elk Valley Rancheria has expressed interest to the county through various different timings over the last few years that they would like to connect to the county service area number 1 for sewer. There was a policy amendment to our local coastal program to allow the extension of utilities beyond the urban services boundary. Most recently, they came to the board asking for a letter of support for their annexation request to the Del Norte LAFCO. They did end up filing the application with the Del Norte LAFCO, and we have subsequently received a comment letter from the California Coastal Commission, which is suggesting that if the tribe is to request annexing to the county service area, that it could potentially result in an increase in capacity beyond what was considered as part of the federal consistency determination done for the tribe's project, as well as the county's LCP amendment review, et cetera. Therefore, the alternative to doing that would be to have the tribe withdraw their applications in the county, submit an application for a sphere of influence amendment, which would take in the 2 tribal properties, and then we would work through the LAFCO to do what they call an out-of-agency contract, which would allow us to provide our services to the tribe. And I have had conversations with the tribe's legal counsel as well as the Del Norte LAFCO, and I think this is something that we could probably put together fairly quick, and I know the tribal council was supportive of the county pursuing this, and that if we could get the support of the Board of Supervisors as the Board of Directors of the CSA to support the submission of this sphere of influence amendment, that they would withdraw the other applications, and we would hopefully move forward and get this thing resolved.
Fantastic. I love the way that you can think outside of the box sometimes to work as a community to solve problems of mutual benefit. Board members?
Yeah, Heidi, the cost, does the county then bear the cost of them being able to hook up, or is that part of their?
We are going to bear the cost of submitting the application for the sphere of influence amendment. We're very fortunate that we did an environmental document for the LCP amendment, which the Del Norte LAFCO believes that they can use that for the sphere of influence, so there's going to be money saved there. There will be connection fees that are connection charges that the Rancheria will have to pay when they actually, once everything is resolved and they've been informed of all of, what that's going to entail.
And is there concern with going over capacities, or?
No, and their plans have never changed. This was
A surprise.
yeah. So, but we found a way to work through it, and
Yeah, and along that lines, I know I spoke with Dale Miller and with Jay, and subsequently Jerry is going to be involved too, because the need to get back and have the 2x2 discussions, and I think this is a great jumping off platform for it as well.
yeah, and definitely there's some other some preliminary work feasibility work that we're doing with the Elk Valley Rancheria that is definitely going to end up back here with the board, hopefully, and it's all very good news for all of us.
Supervisor Gitlin, you had a question?
Well, it was just Supervisor Hemmingson asked my question about economic impact. Is there any loss of property taxes, or is this already been predetermined?
Once the land went into trust with the Bureau of Indian Affairs, and I believe that issue was already resolved. So,
Right.
But they will be paying as users of our system, and they will also pay the connection charge to connect.
Thank you very much, Heidi.
You're welcome.
Right, and that Supervisor Gitlin really was taken care of when we negotiated with the impact fees, or what the MOU that's with the Elk Valley Rancheria. Can I get a motion on this, please?
Motion to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Public comment on this? No? Okay, back to the board. Any final questions? As I already stated, great way to work together to find a cheaper, more effective way to work.
Thank you.
Beneficial for everybody. Poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Chair Finnegan?
Yes. And with that, we're going to go to a 10:25 timed item, which is public comment period. Any member of the public may address the board in any issue that is under the purview of the board. Try to limit your comments to 3 minutes. And public comment, please.
My name is Sharon McKinney. I live in the county. I'd like to call your attention to the reader board that's out on your lawn. It's in terrible disrepair. It's been vandalized. It's dirty. There's some old documents that have been down on the bottom for months. If you want people to read the business, you need to be able to see through that plexiglass. Probably find a budget for cleaning that up. The other thing is, it's been 14 months since I brought my concern about Cooper and J Street intersection. In my more than 900 crossings, I want to tell you that 2 drivers actually stopped for me. One of them was coming east on Cooper and stopped right by the fire hydrant, and that would be a good place for a crosswalk. And the other one was coming up J Street and stopped just by the J Street stop sign. Just saying.
Thank you, Sharon. Any other public comment? No? Okay, back to the board then. Let's take item 25, consider miscellaneous legislative and budget matters pertinent to the County of Del Norte. Jay, we got anything?
We don't have anything pending today in regards to having written address by the board regarding the budget. We should have the final transfer done for this year this week, hopefully today, and then we will be able to see where we stand with our fund balance and start working on the final push for the final budget, which will then, right now, the budget hearings will start on, I believe it's September 8th, and go for 14 days. So any input from the board will be able to be taken during those hearings, or even prior if the board would like to have do that during a report period. At this point, hopefully we have enough through our fund balance to get us as close, and then we can get it balanced.
Very good. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do a reporting out of supervisors of any of their activities relative to the Board of Supervisors. Supervisor Howard.
Thank you, Chair Finnegan. It's been a busy last couple of weeks. I won't go over those covered by the CAO that we attended together. I was in attendance at an SSIT meeting with the school district. That's a school system implementation team meeting that has been going on for the last 3 and 4 years, specific to helping to guide decisions within the district administration with programs around literacy and foster children. The discussions are going well, but more importantly, it's been a way for us to connect with the new district superintendent, Jeff Harris, and hopefully get on track where we're going with many of our programs, both jointly with the county and with the district specific to literacy, and make sure Jeff Harris is up to speed on going forward. Had some meetings with Clint Shad on transient occupancy tax. I know it's been an issue covered in the local triplicate, and it's something that I think needs to be addressed here in the near future by our board, as we've seen dramatic impacts from tourism here in our community the last 5-6 years. Definitely a sounding board for us to maybe react appropriately with funding opportunities. Had several discussions with Senator Mike McGuire, when he was here this last week. Met with him on a possible position for a resource liaison that would be housed within the Community Development Department. I know it's something that this board has requested and wanted for quite some period of time. Met with him on elk issues and farming issues within our community. Had a pleasant dinner with him out at Ocean Air Farms. In attendance there was also Supervisor Hemmingson and Gitlin, and had a quick meeting with him at Alexander Dairy to discuss issues with Tolowa Dune State Park. The meeting that was most interesting was the meeting I attended last week of the California State Fish and Game Commission. Had had gone down to see some of the reaction of a request that the Fish and Game Commission had requested of staff of the Fish and Wildlife Department specific to Blue Creek. The request was made to staffer Stafford Laird, who is the top fisheries management individual in Sacramento for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. The request specifically was to find ways to resolve issues around Blue Creek before regulations were proposed this year in November and in December, to avoid public comment and public dismay that regulations were going to be changed. They were hoping to find mechanisms that would help us to get by some of the closures that we saw take place around the mouth of Blue Creek. Unfortunately, that discussion never took place, and I was a little disappointed to see that that discussion did not occur at that meeting. What I found, to my dismay, specifically on the issue of the two new commissioners that were appointed by the governor, Commissioner Schuyler and Commissioner Williams, I had hoped that there would be a change in thinking and philosophy based on sound science with the two new appointments. And I was quite disappointed, specifically on an issue with bobcats. It's been a big issue in the state for quite some period of time. It had generated legislation in the state around Assembly Bill. And the intent of the Assembly Bill wasn't to eliminate the trapping of bobcats for the collection of furs, but it was more to regulate it in a way that bobcat populations would be sustainable in the state, which they have been for quite some period of time. Bobcat trapping has been going on in our state for quite a period of time, but it began being regulated in the 70s. Fur markets crashed sometime in the early 80s, which decreased annual trapping from around 44 to 45,000 pelts annually down to the mere 1,600 annual take of bobcats in the state of California. This trend has continued for decades since the fur trade is pretty much stopped, and really there's only a foreign market for it, mostly in Russia, for bobcat pelts. But the point I'm bringing up here is that, and the reason I make comment about the two new commissioners, is that the commission has an obligation under legislation to listen to their scientists about what is sound science to make their decisions on. And in this case, the science about bobcats having sustainable populations, and more importantly, not being affected as an endangered species in our state, that trapping could continue. The department had made a recommendation that trapping should continue, but zonally, and this commission should consider that recommendation. But they also had a consideration to close bobcat trapping throughout the state of California. There was a lot of public there to speak on it. Well over 100 individuals came out to speak about limiting bobcat trapping within the state of California. The Humboldt County Board of Supervisors also wrote letters about not dismissing that. And following the State Department of Fish and Wildlife recommendations. However, those two new commissioners both moved and seconded for the full closure of trapping elimination for bobcats in the state of California against the sound science of their experts in the State Department of Fish and Wildlife. And it really took me back quite a ways. It made me think that going forward, we're going to have more of this kind of activity, and that doesn't necessarily follow science within the state, but it essentially follows emotion. And people in those areas much farther south of us that don't have the same resource impacts or concerns, just basically guiding how we live our lives here in Del Norte County. And it causes me a great deal of unrest as I think about the future of our community being dictated by people in Southern California. I also attended the 4-H auction, and it was great to see the kids getting quite great prices this year. The 92 kids that entered their animals and got to the auction this year, high prices and wonderful to see. Attended some planning meetings, and then in addition, great discussion with an individual by the name of Russ Gaskin, who was brought here from Washington, D.C. to help out the Building Healthy Communities movement here in our community. He's been known to actually coordinate mediation between Democrat and Republican staffers on getting to consensus on issues, and I'm hoping he's able to do some great work with BHC here on moving our last 5 years of the Building Healthy Communities program forward in our community.
Very good, thank you. Jay, is there not, I know we have signs on the walls about cell phones, is there not one standing out in the lobby as well?
There was on the movable placard.
Yeah, okay. Everybody has an accident, but a reoccurring problem really needs to be addressed. Okay, thank you, please. We have a 10:30 timed item, which is to waive the full reading and introduce proposed ordinance to allow First Five Commission to expand its current membership not less than 5 nor more than 7 to not less than 7 or more than 9, as requested by the Director of First Five. And I think, Council, does this fall under a public hearing? I know it has public postings, and we can't take action, so it's basically to waive the first reading is what the motion should be? Okay. Can I get a motion on this, please?
Moved to approve.
And a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Public comment on this? Okay, back to the board. The discussion, I guess, really is that not only does it have to do with meeting a quorum, but there are so many different programs that are being expanded, and there are so many other members with expertise within the community that really could be beneficial to this commission, is the reason First Five is asking that it be expanded. It's not a mandate, but it is allowing us to do so. And poll the vote. Oh, Jerry?
Well, I would, that seems to be a little counterproductive, I guess, or when they say they can't get a quorum and then they're raising the number, it seems to me like that would be harder to get a quorum. So I'm a little confused there. I do like expanding it to having more public influence. That makes a lot of sense to me. But when you expand the numbers because you're having a problem getting a quorum now, it just seems like that would exacerbate the problem. So I have no problem with doing it and giving it a shot and getting more public influence. That sounds great, but I'm not sure it's going to fix the quorum issue.
Any other comments? Okay. And historically, usually, the board has gone along with what First Five has requested, knowing that they're the experts there. Poll the vote, please. No. Yeah, this is just for, there's a motion and a second to waive the first reading for the ordinance. So poll the vote, please.
Supervisor Gitlin?
Yes.
Supervisor Hemmingson?
Yes.
Supervisor Howard?
Yes.
Chair Finnegan?
Yes. And with that, we'll return to report outs by supervisors. Supervisor Gitlin.
Yes, thank you. As you know, the board conducted a special meeting last week to respond to the grand jury report. The subject was primarily focused on solid waste authority operations, and the response, not unexpectedly, has met with some degree of controversy. As I'm sure most of you are aware, the Board of Supervisors has no jurisdiction over the Solid Waste Authority, which is a joint powers authority, so any response from the board would have no enforcement. The subject will continue next week when the Solid Waste Authority meets to discuss the jury report. Last week I was privileged to escort NHRA Funny Car Champion Cruz Pedregon through Crescent City in Del Norte County, as Cruz was escorted on a tour of Pelican Bay State Prison. That's a hobby of his. The cruiser also visited some fans at Robertson's Automotive before heading north to Seattle for the next round of NHRA action. This past 2 weeks, I've met with residents along Cooper Avenue who have complained quite forcefully of the speeding problem which has existed from Jay and Cooper westerly to El Dorado. The California Highway Patrol has been conducting special enforcement along this route this past several weeks. I'd concur with Supervisor McClure that a stop sign should be considered, and according to folks I've spoken with, a four-way stop, probably at Meridian, would be very much appreciated, Meridian and Cooper. But upon further scrutiny, the three-way traffic stop at Jay and Cooper should also be evaluated. And since this borders on the city, I would recommend this 2x2 committee meet with the city and report to the board on this troublesome intersection. Veterans Monument Committee met on the Point of Honor obelisk at the S-curve. Grants and funds are being organized and collected as we speak, one step closer to realizing this great community project. I attended a chamber mixer last Thursday hosted by Serenity Suites Bed and Breakfast on Blackwell Lane. Also met with a constituent, Phoebe Lenhart, who's produced a brochure flyer on where to see our sometimes controversial Roosevelt elk. So I met and had lunch with new triplicate editor Robin Fornoff, who comes to Delaware County from Clovis, New Mexico. Welcome, editor Robin Fornoff, to Delaware County. Attended future facilities and library trustee meetings. Also met with Senator McGuire, along with Supervisors Hemmingson and Howard. Also want to recognize and thank Six Rivers U.S. Forest Service District Ranger David Palmer for his several times per day multi-fire and smoke updates, including valuable road and containment reports. Job well done. Attended the fair and the rodeo on Saturday. Recognition and acknowledgement to county resident Kathleen Benskin for her tireless efforts in locating and removing blight from Delaware County. Mrs. Benskin has been an ardent supporter of our Take a Bite Out of Blight program, and was recently observed removing cable and some wires that were thrown up into a maple tree here in downtown. This kind of special effort is noticed and recognized, and in addition, the countless times Mrs. Benskin has called in blight about our community, she's recognized with a Making a Difference Award from our Take a Bite Out of Blight program, and will be my guest for lunch for 2 at the Chart Room. Thank you, Kathleen Benskin. Weekly How Drive cleanup, Take a Bite Out of Blight cleanups continue every Saturday at 10 o'clock, where volunteers pick up litter and remove graffiti from the lighthouse to the pool. And finally, another partner sent in a letter of support for the alternate route around Last Chance Grade. The letter comes from Sonoma County Transportation Authority. Thanks and recognition to Senator Mike McGuire for helping secure the 35th different letter of support from private companies and public governances in seeking an alternate route around Last Chance Grade. That's my report.
Supervisor Hemmingson.
Yes, thank you. Had a local mental health board meeting where it was explained that earlier that we seem to be getting more community involvement and addressing community needs, which I think is an absolutely wonderful thing. Had a future facilities meeting, and the main topic was about leasing a piece of property for Health and Human Services, and I had to recuse myself because of a conflict, but I did get in a discussion about the new lighting that we're working on for the parking lot, and that should be up at any time, I'm hoping. Had a meeting with Fish and Wildlife staff. Chairman Finnegan attended also. I don't remember if any other supervisors were there or not. I don't know. I don't think anybody else was there. But anyway, meeting with Fish and Wildlife staff about the elk issues specifically, and a lot to do with their new sheriff program that they're going to be implementing hopefully early next year. And then went to Ocean Air's farm potluck with who the main speaker was, Senator McGuire, along with Supervisors Howard and Gitlin, and we had discussions. I got a chance to corner him, so I did get some chance to talk to him about the elk issues, the Klamath River closure issue, as well as some Fish and Game Commission issues, and also kind of put him on the spot about our payment in lieu of taxes. So anyway, he's seemed to be on top of all those issues, and it was nice to hear that he was going to be working on those. Had a meeting with Monty Mendenhall along with CAO Serena at Pacific Power. I also, as Supervisor Gitlin said, was at the Board of Supervisors special meeting to discuss responses to the grand jury. Unfortunately, had to attend a celebration of life for Jeremy Holman, who died way too young, same age as my son. Basically a member of the family. Pretty sad affair. Then I had a Border Coast Regional Airport Authority meeting. The RSA project is coming along fabulously. We'll shortly be done with that project. Looking forward to the terminal project up next, and then hopefully runway extension. And then I did attend Del Norte County Fair. The concert with Aaron Tippin was really good. Attended the rodeo, where my granddaughter was, her 3-year-old granddaughter was involved in the calf scramble. She was not a winner, but she enjoyed the whole event. So we had a great time at the fair. That's it for me.
Makes you wonder what would happen if one of those younger ones would grab hold of one of those tails and not let go. But anyway, I'll be real brief. First 5 meeting, Children and Families Commission, where I accepted the job as their chair for the next year. We followed up on our general plan, as well as all the programs we're looking to expand. Had a discussion regarding expanding the commission as well. Met, as Supervisor Hemming said, with Fish and Wildlife, well attended regarding the elk, and some inconsistencies on the presentation there. Also had a chance to meet with Senator McGuire when he was in town. I've never met an elected official, nor hardly an individual his age, with more energy and more knowledge on what he's trying to accomplish. So we're very fortunate there. Met with a member from the Board of Realtors, wanting to know how they can be more involved in economic development and some of the issues that face the board. Met with we had a meeting, or a monthly meeting, with the Last Chance Grade stakeholders meeting. Just to be noted that the LTCO is the Local Transportation Commission, works on it for Del Norte County. That the stakeholders group formed by the congressman is a conglomerate of this county, Humboldt County, law enforcement agencies, environmental community, I mean, just a broad base in an attempt to reach consensus, as with parks involved as well, obviously, to reach consensus so we can then go to the congressman to expedite the funding as well as the environmental process if there are no disagreements up front. And it should be noted, while all individual efforts are appreciated, the process is most effective when dealt with within these established groups. I think we actually have it narrowed down there's going to be a report out from Caltrans regarding some of the geotechnical, regarding the tunnel option. We'll either put it soundly on the table or take it off the table. So it's getting closer than one would imagine. The Board of Supervisors special meeting regarding the grand jury, I think you read about it in the paper. The airport JPA had a meeting that Supervisor Hemmingson attended as well and reported out on. We're doing excellent there. The Pen Air has moved into the terminal, painted their wall, their colors instead of the United Airlines SkyWest colors, and September 15th. There are schedules out there people should pay attention to, and there are some fantastic rates, like $99 flights to get to Portland to connect anywhere. If you wanted to go to Sacramento, which when we had the Sacramento flight, unfortunately not many people from here went there, most people from Arcata, you can go there in half the time. I used to leave here at 10:30 and not get to Sacramento till 7:30, 8 o'clock, and could almost drive it quicker, sometimes taking 7 hours in the airport. 3.5 hours you can do it by leaving here, going to Portland, then to Sacramento, and there's 7 flights a day once you get to Portland there. So a lot of the rhetoric that took place in the beginning is really the connectivity is turning out to be something else again. So really looking forward to that for everybody. And then I did attend the California Forward, I think the future Crescent City, County, Del Norte, the grassroots program. They met down at the beach park, beachfront park, well attended. Love their positive message. Rather than picking on what's wrong, we're looking to do something that's right with the community. And then again met with the airport JPA to award a $5 million plus award for the mitigation, runway mitigation, the environmental portion, to get underway with that. And just want to say congratulations to the fair manager Randy Hatfield and their board, and that newly elected board that has something to do with recreation, because I know they didn't have anything to do with the weather, but what a fantastic attendance and what a fantastic fair. And with that, I know you're all feeling a little left out because we're getting out of here early, but that's the business of the day, and we'll see you next time. Meeting adjourned.